Time now for the World Brief and a review of some of today's newspaper headlines. But first, let me tell you what's happening around the world. US President Donald Trump has approved plans to attack Iran, but has not made a final decision on whether to strike the country. Now, according to US media, Trump held off on initiating strikes in case Iran agreed to abandon its nuclear program. Trump is reportedly considering a US strike on Fordo, an underground uranium enrichment facility in Iran. Now, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said on Wednesday that he rejected Trump's demand for unconditional surrender. He also went on this morning in a televised address, said that Iran would not be backing down. Now, US President Donald Trump had said that his patience had been running out. That's the background. Now, earlier this week, Trump was asked where he was on his plans to intervene in the war and support Israel. This is what he had to say.
That I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so.
There you have it. Trump says that Iran does want to cooperate, but we just heard from the supreme leader who says that he would not be backing down. So we have to see what is happening. Meanwhile, for the people of Tehran in the Iranian capital, they are responding to the looming prospect of US intervention by flocking out of the city. Fuel stations and motorways were gridlocked with queues as worried citizens fled for their lives. Now, Mali has started construction of a new Russia-backed gold refinery, which the West African country's military leader says would take it closer to asserting control over its own national and natural resources. Now, the 200-ton capacity facility, in which Mali has a controlling stake, will be built in partnership with Russia's Yadran Group and a Swiss investment company. Now, Mali's interim president, Colonel Assimi Goïta, said last year that all mining companies would be required to process their gold domestically under a revised mining code without providing a deadline. Now, the move does reflect a broader regional shift extending across the Sahel, where Guinea, Niger, and Burkina Faso have all revised their mining codes to mandate local processing, which adds value to their exports. In addition to that, and adds value to their exports and boosts their economic resources. We also know that when we're looking at this West African region, that this move does reflect a broader regional shift which extends across the Sahel, where Guinea, Niger, Burkina Faso have also revised their codes, but also they are all looking at their gold deposits and making sure that they can be in a position where, while they are leaning towards Russia, they are also in control far more than they were under their previous colonial rulers of France. Those are your stories. I'd love to hear your thoughts before we move on to papers.
I think it all comes down to what the arrangement looks like, because you can't have an arrangement with France where all of your reserves are kept in France and you still operate under the French franc as well. Yes. So, this is a move towards their own independence. They're trying to ensure that they can do beneficiation, value addition of their own minerals. And it looks like their body language is that they don't really care about what the West has to say. They're ready to do business with the East, if that's what it takes for them to be able to control their means of production, which I think is extremely laudable. Now, to Iran and the USA. So, of course, I'm glad we saw Donald Trump saying that nobody knows what he's going to do. So we're currently living in a bubble of speculation, where depending on what interests a media house serves, they're pulling in a direction of he will do it or he won't do it. Yesterday, there was a huge, I'm not sure if you saw the interview between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, and that blew up because we know that, of course, that's a MAGA fan base, right? And to see that the MAGA fan base is also at conflicts with regards to what needs to be done about Iran, although Donald Trump later said that Tucker Carlson has apologized and said that he backs the fact that Iran should not have nuclear weapons. But what's the real issue? I read an article saying that the real point of contention here about whether or not America will join this war is around the efficacy of the GBU-57. That's the bunker buster, which is said to be the only bomb with the capability of getting down the 90 meters, underground, where this Fordo facility is. So Fordo facility, almost 20 years ago, was actually above the ground. And then over the past 20 years, Iran has moved it under a mountain and underground. And so it's not something you can just attack with regular missiles. America is the only country that has the GBU-57. However, it's never been used before. That's number one. Number two, it needs GPS accuracy. And currently, the likelihood of one being able to get GPS accuracy in Iran is very low because there's going to be jammers everywhere. So there's some people who are saying that really the debate here is not about intervention, but it's about the efficacy. Would it be a successful attack? And we know that Donald Trump will not back something that unless he believes is going to be 100% a successful mission. So we wait to see.
Everybody, you're very spot on. You just put the finger on it. They can lie all they want to lie. Donald Trump and America, that they try to do a new deal with Iran and all of that. The question I've asked them that they can't answer is the fact that doesn't Israel have a nuclear program? Is it not the same America that started this nuclear program with Iran? In Atoms for Peace program, when the Shah was still there. So when it favors America, America says something. When it doesn't favor them. And I never thought there would be a time in my life where I say I support Tucker Carlson. That was a good grilling. I never thought that time will come. And I don't think he should have gone to apologize because he asked salient questions. Because you are telling them to invade Iran. That's why I asked Senator Ted Cruz, how many people are in Iran? He doesn't even know the population. You just want to displace 90 million people?
And put them where?
And put them where? So that's the point of contact. In fact, what they're saying now is the GB bombs with a payload of about 13,000 kg. 30,000 kg cannot go as far as that 90 meter of that Fordo facility underground. So the first idea brought forward the likes of Hegseth is let us use a softer bomb to clear the ground, use another bomb that can go about 1 or 2 meters deep, then look for a strategic nuclear option that can go way down. At first, they had talked about the B-52 bombers. Maybe they were going to get a big payload. The B-52 bombers can carry very heavy payload bombs. Maybe they were going to get them in there and just use them to bomb and sink. But they're not sure about the accuracy of that. Now they're talking about the B-2 bombers made by Northrop Grumman. They're called the B-2 Spirits. The B-2 Spirit, very stealthy in nature, can carry thermonuclear materials so that they can at least burn the surface a bit and then go deep down. And that's why you see all the bombings they've been doing in Natanz and other things. Yeah, they've been affecting centrifuges, but the real area in that Fordo that has over 87% uranium enrichment is what they want to attack now. So America is going gung-ho. And if we don't call America to order that they have no right to invade a sovereign nation and even call for the killing of a leader of a sovereign country, who is going to be next? If America does this successfully, probably any other nation they don't feel cool with, they just go ahead and invade. And we do not have a world that's going to be safe any longer. The same Trump that said he was not going to go to war, that accused the Democrats of being war hawks and warmongers, look at what he's doing today. And they've been the ones supporting Israel. So they've not been able to get a clinical and a surgical attempt around it because of the 90-meter depth, and they're trying to look for bombs. But probably now they are settling around the conversation around the B-2 bomber, have an interim bomb to clear the surface, then look for a thermonuclear option to be able to pound in there and all of that. Even the efficacy of that bomb is still subject to a lot of questions. That's why there'll be a lot of back and forth between Pentagon and the White House on this.
Agreed. All righty. Well, let's move on to newspaper headlines. Let's take a look at the front page of This Day. Now, This Day does leave President Tinubu's message to the people of Benue as he promises to convert the current tragedy into prosperity, as he says he is ready to invest in peace. Now, if we turn to the inner pages of This Day this morning, we'll find the focus section on page 20, and its headline says, "A stoic-looking Tinubu journeys into Benway's wounded soul." And then on focuses on page 21, we have more pictures from his visits, which include the president visiting victims at the hospital and mourners who lined the streets dressed in black and carrying signs that read, "We welcome you with tears, end banditry and herdsmen attacks." Now, the president directed security chiefs to arrest perpetrators of Friday's attack in Yellowater. He also called out the Inspector General of Police, asking why arrests had not been made, and also said that the governor of Benue State was elected to bring peace and stability, not to bury the people or comfort widows and orphans, and said that the federal government would work with him to deliver peace, and also implored with him to work with the federal government. This day also reports on the comments from Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, who says that the prospect of a travel ban affecting Nigeria and 35 other countries would be unfortunate if implemented. He said it would be a significant barrier to trade, diplomacy, and regional prosperity. Now, on the front page of the Daily Independent, we see more of the president's actions in Benue. He has instructed Governor Alia to constitute a peace committee to make land available for ranching. So those are separate. Firstly, to make a peace committee, and then to make land available for cattle ranching. There's also discussion of the coming together former governors to form a think tank for an enduring solution. And that's as Governor Alia asks for a special intervention fund for affected communities. Now, from crises affecting Nigerians at home to those abroad, the New Telegraph reports that the federal government has announced that it is finalizing emergency evacuation plans for Nigerian citizens stranded in Israel and Iran following the recent escalation of hostilities between the two nations. That's according to a statement released by the spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Nigerian embassies in Tel Aviv and Tehran are actively reaching out to affected citizens and coordinated efforts to ensure their safe return. Nigerians in these affected regions have been urged to adhere strictly to local security protocols and to contact the nearest embassy or mission for registration and further instructions. The Daily Trust marks World Sickle Cell Day with its report on how patients are battling the high cost of drugs and access to treatment. Now, back to Nigeria specifically, with the Vanguard, which weighs in on the Central Bank of Nigeria's forbearance issue. This time we're looking at Zenith Bank, and Zenith Bank has assured its investors on its exit by June 30th. Those are your papers.
I mean, it's good that Zenith Bank has taken out time to assure its investors, because see, let's not deceive ourselves. And that's why when we were discussing this matter, I was a little bit taken aback. The markets had a run on the banks, and it was not good. At a point in time, we're not saying the CBN should not do its regulatory work, but also there's something called confidence in the markets. And this is another side to the arguments. In fact, I've gotten a lot of reports that, probably some arguments are saying that probably the CBN will have handled in such a way that we'll call the bank CEOs into a room that has a forbearance issue and settle out the matters like that and say, okay, we're going to give you the timelines. Because a lot of those banks did get a run on their shares. If the banking system was not very confident and bullish to a certain extent, we could have had a big run. And that's why we should. So that's another part of the argument. Another part of the argument does say it's also a good one by the CBN, because it shows that they're going back to orthodoxy, right, trying to rein people in, right, that we must not have skirmishes, that these loans must be performing loans, and they must be able to, get some actuality about the level and the position of most of these loans. And it was also right for them to be able to say, okay, seize on the bonuses until you're able to clear most of these encumbrances out. But we also have to be balanced on both sides and on both spec of the arguments.
Absolutely. What got my attention is on the Daily Independent, it spoke about, I hope they can pull it up, the Akwa Ibom journalists. Journalists in Akwa Ibom face rising threat of cyberbullying harassment. And the story was very concerning for me because it details how journalists who do investigative journalism and opposition journalists in Akwa Ibom are saying that whenever they publish their stories, they are having state-sponsored cyber attacks against them. So they say they are then subjected to cyberbullying. These are their allegations. They're saying that the Akwa Ibom state government is financing the spat of people who attack you. So if you try to publish or investigate anything that doesn't paint them in a good light, allegedly, they're mobilizing people to attack, which I mean is extremely unfortunate because yesterday I'm so glad that the president continues to reiterate the fact that you have critics. And that's okay, if this story is entirely true, and if it can be proved that Akwa Ibom state government is behind such an attack on journalists who are trying to unravel, investigative work and so forth, then it would be very wrong and very unfair in this season where we just celebrated Democracy Day and we're speaking about, freedom of the press and so forth. So I do hope that a deeper investigation can be done on that, and thank you to Daily Independent for uncovering that story that's currently taking place.
Well, thank you both for your submissions on the World Brief and the newspaper review.